Okay, so let's get into this. You've probably seen this Mr. Beast challenge, right? But we're going to look at it a little differently, as a wild case study in human behavior. I mean, what happens when you lock a bunch of strangers in a grocery store with basically unlimited food and tell them only one person gets to walk away with a life-changing amount of money? Well, a whole new society gets born. And it all kicks off with this magic number, $250,000. That's enough to make you quit your job, miss your family, and push yourself to some pretty crazy limits. This isn't just a prize, it's the spark that ignites this entire social experiment. And the rule? So simple. Just don't leave. The last person standing inside this fully stocked grocery store wins all that cash. It sounds like a simple test of who can last the longest, but believe me, it turned into a complex game of psychology, strategy, and pure survival. And that is really what we're digging into here. This isn't just about who can sleep on a cold floor for weeks on end. No. This is about watching a tiny society get built from scratch, complete with its own rules, its own alliances, and eventually its own betrayals. It's basically Lord of the Flies, but, with way better snacks. So, the game is on, and the first thing that happens is honestly pretty amazing. Almost right away, these total strangers start to organize themselves. It's what scientists call spontaneous order. Basically, people creating rules out of complete chaos to make life predictable. And what's so wild is how fast they formed these little cliques, these factions. You had Fort Freezy over in the meat section, controlling the good stuff. The Dream Team used their size as an advantage. The folks in the manager's office were playing chess, not checkers, all sneaky and strategic. And then you had the innovators, just making cool stuff in the produce aisle. These weren't just random groups of people anymore, they were tribes, with their own territory and everything. And just look at how they adapted. I mean, they weren't just surviving, they were trying to live. They're building beds out of toilet paper, rigging up a shower, even setting up little workout stations. But maybe the most powerful part? Seeing their families through the front glass. A crazy, constant reminder of what they were fighting for and what they were missing out on. But, this little utopia they built, it was never gonna last, because pretty soon, the reality of the game sinks in. Only one person can win. And that's when the cooperation starts to crack and things take a much, much darker turn. You can literally watch it all go downhill. It starts with something small on day 5. This guy Xavier pops someone's floaty bed. Seems minor, right? Wrong. It was the spark that lit the whole place on fire. By day 10, one group is using sleep deprivation as an actual weapon. And by day 20, someone steals the basketball, their only form of fun. And the whole store just spirals into paranoia and mistrust. And this quote just says it all. It wasn't just a prank. It was a message, a violation of their unspoken rules. It basically announced that all the norms of being civil to each other, those were officially over. And you could see the mental strain it took. For some people, the money just wasn't worth it anymore. This person didn't leave because they were hungry or tired. They left because the community, the very people around them, had become unbearable. Which brings us to this idea of calculated chaos. This wasn't just random acts of being a jerk. It was a strategy. The goal was to methodically make life so miserable for everyone else that they would just give up and walk out. It's a really dark, but, let's be honest, a brutally effective way to play the game. So just when everyone's getting used to this new, chaotic normal, Mr. Beast decides to throw a wrench in the works. He starts introducing these, let's call them system shocks, basically changing the rules out of nowhere to see how these fractured groups would react. So what did he do? Well, first, there were simple cash bribes, testing if individual greed was stronger than the group's will to stay. Then he literally built a giant wall splitting the store in half, which created a massive crisis. And to top it off, a big red button that just promised to make things harder. Every single one of these was a new test on their breaking point. And that wall? Whoa. The impact was instant. 1 minute, you've got sunlight, a shower, real bathrooms. The next, half the store is thrown into total darkness. They've got porta potties, and they're washing up with, get this, Coke Zero. It just shows you how fast things can fall apart when resources suddenly become scarce. Okay, then came this next test, and it was a real mind-bender. The group has to vote for a leader, and then Mr. Beast hands that leader 50 grand. But here's the twist. They can't keep it. They have to use that money to bribe other people to leave. And if they can't make a deal, the money just vanishes.
It's this insane high-stakes negotiation where everything depends on one person's ability to persuade their rivals.
All right, so after all this weeks of backstabbing, mind games, and crazy rule changes, we get to the final phase. And this is where the entire game, the whole reason they were there, gets completely flipped on its head. Just let that sink in for a second. 67 days. That's more than 2 months living inside a grocery store. The people who were left had proven they could endure pretty much anything. But the final test, it had nothing to do with endurance. Let's just rewind for a sec and remember why they're here. This number, $250,000. That single goal is what caused every alliance, every fight, every single sleepless night for 67 days. It's the reason they built this society, just to tear it apart. And then Mr. Beast brings out this, $1 million. He quadrupled the prize money. But of course, there was a catch, a huge one that would change absolutely everything. So here it is, the final choice. Option A, keep playing the same old game, last person standing wins the $250K. Or option B, change the game, work together as a team, and eat every single item in the newly restocked store. If they pull it off, they split $1 million. So, stay enemies for a smaller prize or become teammates for a way, way bigger one. So, what did they do? After everything they'd been through? The vote wasn't even close. After 67 days of fighting tooth and nail against each other, 4 out of the 5 of them voted to stop fighting and start working together. They chose cooperation over competition. And just like that, with that one vote, Mr. Beast calls it. This video is over. The original experiment, the fight to be the last one left, it was done, and a totally new, collaborative game was about to start. The society they built, then broke, was about to be rebuilt with a brand new mission. And that really leaves us with this big question, right? When you completely change the rules of the game, do the players change too? I mean, this whole thing suggests that maybe, just maybe, people can overcome weeks of bitterness and rivalry, as long as the reward for working together is big enough for everyone to share.